Dear viewers, welcome back to our project Creative Society. And today we are continuing our discussion related to journalism. And as you have seen, the topic of today is how to bring back dignity to the profession of a journalist. Basically, to make it short, how we can be proud of mass media. I mean, we as consumers of these media products, what also we can do in order to facilitate the transition of the mass media format from the consumer, let's say, format to a more creative one. And today we'll be discussing the problems related to the journalism and as well as finding solutions how to get out of the crisis in mass media. And today we have also our co-host with us, Alina. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm very glad to be here with you today. And it's my pleasure to introduce our dear guests. So let's start with Justice Clark, who is from Liberia. Hello, Justice.
Hello.
Hello, Justice.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's a pleasure, Yeah, it's a pleasure being on this platform, being with Creative Society on this discourse. If you look at, journalism in my country, to put it into context, right? If you look at journalism in Liberia, the field is challenged in the sense that, in the first place, there are no strict criteria as to making anybody to become a journalist. What happens in the first place is that people who are interested in becoming journalists, even if they're not high school graduates, they're not university students, once they affiliate with a radio station, the next minute, they're holding a microphone in the street, they're holding a microphone in offices, interviewing people. So there are no strict criteria laid out either by authorities or by media authorities like the Press Union of Liberia or Society for Liberian Journalists, who are regulators of the journalism in Liberia, to set out a framework whereby journalists
Justice,
can be...
I apologize for interrupting you. We are now putting your photo because you are saying, very important things. Can you please turn off your video so we can save your audio?
Okay.
Okay. So now we have your photo and now we can have very good sound to be able to understand. So can you please again repeat the last sentence?
Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, there are no clear benchmark laid out for people to become full-fledged journalists in Liberia. The recruitment process is fragile. The recruitment process of journalists is not quite clear. Anybody can become journalists simply because the media owners do not have the resources to compensate professional journalists. So they will entertain anybody who comes to fill our spaces in their newsrooms to become journalists, because they will pay those people who are not real professionals any amount of money they can get at the end of the month. In fact, they sometimes don't even have money to pay those people. But what they do is just to keep the media entities up and running. So that's the first lapse that we face as a media community in Liberia. Now, the second thing is that the media in my country, because our people are gullible, much of the population is not educated, much of the population is illiterate. So it should be the media's responsibility to educate the public and informing the public as to how the ordinary people can see themselves dignified, all right? How their rights can be protected, how they can engage authorities positively for development to come to their communities, and that their livelihoods can improve. But unfortunately, the media, because it has a small economy, there's a small media economy, so the media only goes after articles or news publications or interviewing people, politicians, business people, just because they want to sustain the media institutions that they run, and not necessarily to pass on information to the people who really need those information. Therefore, the media is not quite looking in a direction of development. Instead, it is concerned about sustaining itself. Now, when it comes to the issue of fake news versus facts, all of us know that the traditional media, talking about radio, television, newspaper, magazine, where the traditional media, we are guarded by the ethics of journalism. We are guarded by the principles of journalism, you know, but with the coming into force of social media and other online platforms, you know, now there's a huge challenge that the traditional media has to be very, very careful as not to be carried away by what we see every day on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and so forth. What we need to do is to maintain our integrity, our integral professional mandate that we have as journalists is to maintain that and not to be carried away by the fake news we see trending on Facebook. Sometimes we're not careful, we will republish or we will sort of repost those articles. So the challenge is that we need to draw a line as to our own responsibility to society, that we need to report news that will represent the true ethics of journalism and verify contents that we see on social media. Now, the social media, or we'll call it citizen journalism, is also important. What it does for the traditional media is that it gives us the clue to pursue certain information that the public really, really needs. While it is true that that information might not definitely be true, it has semblance, it could have semblance of fake news on the social media. We can also use that as traditional media to find out the truth, to find out the fact by verifying. Now, when we verify that information, then we can translate that to the facts and publish it in our news outlets or by our news agencies. Okay, so we have to control our narratives that will represent the dignity of society. So we are quite challenged because what the people need to know is that the people need to know the truth. So if we are carried away or if we are swayed by competition, if we are swayed by, you know, patronage, like we owe allegiance to a certain group of people or a certain politician, when we are carried away by that, what we will simply be lured into will be fake news. And what fake news does is that it destroys society to the extent that fake news has the propensity to bring war. Fake news has the propensity to dislodge an entire community. So we are caught up between the scissors as traditional media to ensure that the dignity of a society is preserved by reporting facts, by fact-checking. Again, let me make it clear here. Fact-checking is never possible. While it is true that we need to counter-check information, we should fact-check, but it's a very huge task, is a Herculean task to achieve, because fact-checking itself is very expensive. All right. So what we need to do is that we verify the different contents that we see trending and the information people give us. You know, for example, I give you an example that when I was coming up in my first 3 years as a practicing journalist, all right, sometime in 2005, there was this outbreak of running stomach in a gold mine in my county in southeastern Liberia. And I was working for the community radio station, okay? So when this patient went to the nearby clinic, they took the patient to the nearby clinic. The medical practitioners there falsely diagnosed that patient as having cholera. And as you may know, cholera is very, very dangerous. So they had to refer the patient to the bigger hospital in a city. So when they referred that patient, now I was quoting the clinic of first instance as saying there's a cholera outbreak in the gold mine. and that caused huge stir just from the radio broadcast. That caused huge stir, and Red Cross, the county medical team, they had to dispatch to the gold mine. Now, it turned out to be acute running stomach as a result of the drinking water. So it was not actually cholera. That was a huge lesson for me. That was a very big lesson for me, because I should have made effort to have gone beyond what I heard simply from that nurse from the clinic of first instance to say it's cholera. And I just went and said cholera on the radio, which was a huge mistake. Now, that's what false fake news does. When you are not careful as a mainstream journalist and you are carried away by just small information that maybe somebody will give as a result of out of fear or as a result of luring people into fear, then you will be getting into fake news, which could destroy society. Now, another thing I said yesterday in our orientative conversation was that what is happening in my country, journalists are very challenged. Now, there is this proliferation of media institutions in the country. Now, we are right now, there is a legislation, it is not passed into law yet, but there is a bill seeking to establish an independent media commission. Now, that independent media commission, as I've learned, is to be able to regulate journalists and media institutions. Now, it's a good thing that Liberia has a law that protects freedom of speech and freedom of expression and free press. Currently, it's called the Abdullahi Kamara Freedom of Information Law. Abdullahi Kamara was the president. He's the late president of the Press Union of Liberia. So the law is in his honor, thanks to the government of Liberia. But what is happening is that the regulation of media content is very important, even though we cannot leverage that to the government because we don't want total censorship. But what we can do as a media community is to invite civil society actors, is to invite lawyers, is to invite human rights advocates, is to invite private citizen women group, elders, traditional council of the country to form part of that independent media commission, which should be synonymous to that of Ghana and Ivory Coast, and as I'm made to understand, Sierra Leone also has one, to be able to regulate the media space. Not just anybody can become a journalist. To become a journalist, there should be criteria. To establish a media institution, there should be criteria. You know, these are solutions that we could find to the growing problem that we find in the media community that seem to be hampering our society. Now, Ogla said yesterday that we have a lot of issues, but we should also put forward recommendations. And this is going to be my concluding point. As a journalist and understanding that we have a whole lot of problems with the media community and how journalists go on the radio every morning and say whatever they like and not being, they're saying the truth, they're lying. I mean, they just say anything because they have opportunity to the microphone, you know, all those need to be regulated. Now, what I have decided to do personally as a journalist who has spent like 17 years in the profession is that I am in a process of changing, of starting to help in changing the dynamics of how we operate as journalists. In my country, Liberia, almost every media institution that will establish, they prioritize politicians, they prioritize patronizing people to sustain their media institution, but they do not necessarily look at development issues that will help the country improve, that will attract investors in the country, so as to improve the living condition of the ordinary people. So what I've decided to do, I am in the process of establishing a media and online. We're going to start with online, and as we progress, hopefully we can build on the prevailing resources to. That is by having a radio station, a newspaper, or a magazine. Now it's called the Green Press Africa, and it would be under the media company named Ecosystem Media Incorporated. We will be looking, we are hopeful to be looking at agriculture, we will be looking at infrastructure, we will be looking at climate change, we'll be looking at fisheries, we'll be looking at regional integration, we'll be looking at, advocating for women and children's rights, things that will mean well for the society, and not necessarily running behind one politician, one representative or senator, or somebody sitting up there simply because we want to monetize ourselves. So I think it's my own little contribution that I'm beginning, and I started that like a month ago, and I'm still organizing the ideas surrounding that. So if every person can have this sort of mindset to make a little impact in our society as a journalist, I think we will get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justice, for your speech. Indeed, we faced lots of problems with humanity, including problems in such a sphere as mass media. Unfortunately, it doesn't serve humanity at the moment, but hopefully we can fix this problem. And maybe our viewers already know. If not, we invite you to visit allatrainites.com and to check out the 8 foundations of creative society, which were the result of global research participants of ALLATRA International Public Movement made worldwide, asking people which kind of society they would like to live in. And one of these 8 foundations says that mass media should belong exclusively to people. And I think it would be a great step for us to do in order to make mass media truly be open, be transparent, and share only truthful information with people. So it would be a tool of uniting people, of implementing good ideas, and not a tool of manipulating people and dividing them. Thank you so much, Justice. And I would like to pass the floor to our next guest, next speaker, who is Saroj.
Before we introduce our second guest, we just would like to say that we just had a conference 12th of March, where this provision that you was just mentioning, the 4 foundations of the creative society, was already discussed by journalists. And we just would like now to ask technical support team to play to us this short extract from the conference. Why? Because it's important for the journalists to understand that this was exactly what Justice was saying, that they can introduce inside them also peer review. So it means the journalists who want to make a change, they can actually can go on. And inside them, they can also introduce the code of ethics to so people can understand how to enter the profession and how to bring change in the society. So if our technical support team can please show to us this small extract of the conference, and then we can discuss it. Thank you so much.
As a journalist, I would like to talk about the 4th foundation, transparency and openness of information for all. Indeed, these lies, betrayal, selfishness have penetrated our society to such an extent, and above all, they concern the media. Of course, imperfect government plays a big role, but still, I think the media is hugely responsible for what is happening in the world today. Certainly, none of us wants, let's say, propaganda of violence, inequality, racism, chauvinism, or religious inequality pouring out of our TV screens, computers, or phones. Surely there should be some kind of internal censorship, first and foremost among journalists themselves. The media should not be dependent, should not be financed by any forces whatsoever. And above all, journalism should be professional. And in this respect, of course, in the creative society, it seems to me the media must be free, first of all, and very, very responsible and professional. A journalist should convey the truth, and he should not, above all, address the consumerist, not serve as a tool of the consumerist society. He must, above all, also have an educational mission. All over the world, people want one and the same thing. What concerns religion, for example, because above all, faith, religion is used as a basic tool for dividing people. But I would like to say that, in my case, for example, I also imagined such a picture. Climbers. They climb mountains, the highest peaks, and they use different equipment. They go with different speed. They go to the top. The path is different for them, but the goal is the same. They all strive for the shining pinnacle of truth. And I think that all believers on earth can be compared with the climbers, each of whom goes their own way to the truth. But there is one summit and one God. So I would like to end our video with an appeal to all people on earth to understand and realize that we are all united in our desire for a happy, secure, peaceful, and quiet life, that we must take responsibility for our dreams ourselves. Simply take this responsibility for the future of our earth into our own hands and unite, in which the *ALLATRA movement can help us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, yeah.
It was a video from the conference which took place on March 20th and which united millions of people across the globe. And so today with us we also have Saruj Mahanta, who lives in South Africa. Saruj, would you like to comment on the video we just watched now? If you
And
can,
maybe Justice and maybe also Alfred from Ghana. I mean, yeah, maybe any one of you would like to comment.
Saruj, your microphone is muted.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Dean, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the topic, bringing back dignity to a profession of journalist. So before we speak, as Olga was saying, perhaps our speakers may like to comment on the video, one which we played, and after that I will start my discussion on this topic. Anyone?
Maybe Alfred from Ghana, maybe you would like to comment, because this lady, she made some important observations. She said, like, what is it's important for her, it's professionalism in the journalism, as well as educational goals that the journalism should fulfill. And the third is the journalism is used as a tool to divide people. And as you know, our conference, the title of our conference was what was the prophets dreamed of. So we realized that the journalism in the creative society, this is what we are striving for, and that is already emerging, because we really can see a trend. We can notice that it's already coming, the creative society. We are asking our journalists and people who are related to mass media to some extent, how we can disseminate the information about this trend of creative society, and see how we can correct some issues and some pitfalls that are already existing in the journalism in the consumer society. It means fake news. It means serving the politicians. This is what Justice told us 5 minutes ago. And also, we, I mean, as consumers of the media products, what we can do, I mean, we ordinary people. And the question is to you, Saroj, now, because you are our second speaker. From your point of view, as a consumer of the media product, what would you like to see in the newspapers? What would you like to notice? Which changes in the mass media? And how to be proud of the mass media today? Like, what do you think?
Right. Thank you, Olga. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Hope my voice is audible clearly to everyone.
Yeah, it's clear.
So, well, I will speak from the very beginning, starting from the journalist to the consumers, as you were saying. So, at first, I will start with the journalism and the quality of journalism, which is currently going on in the society. And what I observe in the society is that from the past, maybe around 10-20 years ago, when the internet was not that much flourished, and when the smartphones and this digital communications and this technology was not that much popular, at the time people were mostly
Sarah's pictures is frozen.
today's journalism. In today's world, the news is reaching right to the living room, right to the bedroom, and right on the top of our palms, on our hand, on the smartphones, and the iPads, and laptops, and so on. So, in this digital world, this journalism plays a very critical role in the society. The journalists who are having this kind of role, they need to understand their role, their activity, which they are doing it in day-to-day life. They need to be very much cautious when circulating such news, either through the various media channels or through the various sources. And that needs to be, as my Mr. Justice, my co-speaker, he was saying, that recruitment process is fragile in some of the nations, some countries. And it is very true that in today's world, it is somewhat become a commercialization in the journalism. And people are, the media houses, they are having a keen competition among themselves. So they are very much into commercialization. They are very much influenced by the politicians, local politicians, the big powerful people. So that should not happen. That is very much dangerous to the society. My saying is journalists should not be biased, should not have their own opinion. Whatever is going on, they should present as is. They should not manipulate in the news or something like that. So there must be some true ethics on that and some moralities lie on that. So it is very much dependent on the media houses as well as the person who is doing journalism. It depends on them how they want to present the speech, how they want to present the news in that moment. So it is, and they need to understand that then and there, when they present the news, it directly reaches to us in the home as a consumer. And consumers or the viewers or the listeners, they are like common people like me and like everyone, general people. We just believe on the news, whatever is coming to us. And it is recently I heard one thing related to this journalism. There is some technology has come up, that lip sync technology, that is called 3D renderings of, and they are saying it like facial reenactment. That is some technology terms. What they are doing, like famous personality is speaking something, and they can even the lip syncing, and they can twist the news as well. It is very dangerous in the society. It can have a very much adverse effect on the society. This needs to be very much carefully present to the world, and this should not be like fake news should not be propagated, because we cannot we cannot fact check. We cannot fact check those kind of news. Common people cannot do that. So it needs to be very much careful. Now, another thing is my speaker, the respected speaker, was saying about the traditional method, media, and actually, when we talk about this traditional media, well, I think news is always a news. Earlier also there was a news. Any event, something is happening, it's a news. Today also the same thing is happening. Somewhere some accident had happened, it is a news. Now, but how to present that one, that is important, and that is how that is a very critical role for the journalist. Now, coming back to the consumers, the listeners who are listening to such news, who are reading to such news, to the consumers, the common people like us, like me. We need, my co-speaker has very rightly said, education and maturedness. We
Okay, now we have seen that the photo of our guest is frozen. I think we can ask him to reconnect again. And Saroj, are you now still with us?
yes,
okay, so please go ahead.
Thank you. So, okay, now I'm talking about the consumer's role and behavior in this kind of today's digital news and the media channel. The consumers need to be a little bit educated. Education is a very much, this is the primary criteria, and we need to be very much careful which news we are reading, which news channel we are going to or following, because there in the world currently so many even the websites and someone have blogs and all, they are putting some news, random news. We don't know whether that's a true fact or not, and we just like a readers and the viewers, we just believe them, just blindly believe them, which should not be there. It is very dangerous. It is very dangerous just to accept whatever is in that ordinary, some blogs and web pages, some news are there. We should be very much careful about that from the consumer perspective, from the listener perspective. And about the journalism, there should be a positive journalism. Very much, it should be open and transparent. And journalism should not be a tool for dividing people. It should be a tool for uniting. That is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Saroj. It was very interesting to get to know the opinion as an ordinary consumer of the media product, as you just said, because very good expression that the news now are reaching our kitchens, our bedrooms, they are everywhere, and it was not like 20 years ago. So obviously the world is different, and obviously we can do a lot nowadays also using technology to overcome the crisis in the journalism. So what I was just writing after you, what you were saying, because you were saying very important things. So far, please correct me if I'm wrong, you was mentioning the following problems related to journalism. That it's biased. Second is that it's still influenced by some political groups. Second is that we as listeners, we believe in news. That's why, I mean, we should also maybe somehow try to double check by ourselves maybe the content, and of course the role of education in terms of which values we are giving to our children and which values they will accordingly absorb, and accordingly they will apply in their professional life once they are adults. And in this sense, let us also ask our technical support team to please show to us the fourth foundation on the screen, and then we can ask our guests to read it for our viewers. It's called Transparency and Openness of Information for All. So Saroj, if you have the chance to read it, what do you think? Or it's too small letters for you, or you can do it?
I can do it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Are you presenting it on the screen or?
Yeah, you see it on the main screen, the fourth foundation. Okay, so I think also, yeah, we can read it. So basically, every human has the right to receive reliable information about the movement and distribution of public funds. And each human has access to information and about the status of implementation of the society's decisions. And the mass media belong exclusively to the society and reflect information truthfully, openly, and honestly. And I think the second sentence, it's very important because Justice was referring to the second sentence when he was mentioning that because of this lack of funding in Liberia, and mass media are started to be financed by the stakeholders, they do not reflect the true situation in the country. So that's why we have seen that in journalism, it's very, very important that the mass media holdings actually belong to community, because we can create a demand for the news that we want to see, because everyone agrees that it's already too much of negativity, too much of blood, too much of violence on TV, and we do not want to have this. And let us now introduce our third guest. The fourth one is on the way. He's driving home and got stuck in the traffic. And his name is Alfred from Ghana. So now we will hear also the position of the situation in Ghana. So Alfred, yeah, the floor is yours. Can you please, yeah, tell us the problems in journalism?
Well, hello, my name is Alfred. Like I was saying about journalism here in Ghana, we don't have the right institutions to license people to go into journalism. So most people get up with the little technology they have. They start practicing journalism on their own way, and it brings a lot of fake news into the mainstream for consumers to consume. And those who have been given the license to practice the journalism, they also get into trouble with the locals, because here we have 3 different kind of religion. We have the Islamic religion, the Christian religion, and we have the traditional religion. You don't have so much problem with both the Islamic and the traditional religion, but you have much problem with the traditional religion, because their way of practicing and exposing the truth is different. They believe in a lot of spirituality, so they don't give you the opportunity to bring out every little information that you want to bring out to the public to know. So journalism here have it difficult getting into these areas to bring out what is happening over there. And also, like my other people were saying, most of the journalism are for the politician. So you know the politician is doing the wrong thing, you know what is going on, but because you belong to a political party, you don't bring out what is actually happening from their point of view, like the bad things they are doing, the fund they are misusing, you don't want to bring it out. And even if another journalist is bringing the truth out, you are fighting that journalist because he's trying to tarnish your political opponent image, which is not like tarnishing, but is the truth. But they don't want the truth. It's like one of the biggest challenge we have, and even recently, we have this undercover journalist called Anas Arimia Anas, who went on undercover journalist to expose some serious corruptions happening in our football industry, and it brought a lot of problem to him and his workers, and even some was even killed. So journalism in Ghana is not so free as the word says. Freedom of speech is not. It's not really about freedom of speech. It's about favoritism. You need to favor somebody. So even if you know the truth, you don't bring it out, and it brings a lot of misunderstanding to the people, to the consumers in the country. And little is being done about it to solve the problem, because we still have the traditional rulers to deal with, we still have the politicians to deal with, we still have the some religious leaders to deal with before all this, before the truth can be solved. Yeah, so that is some of the challenges we have over here.
Thank you so much, Alfred. Very important topic you raised. Yes, indeed. And it should be, you know, every journalist's responsibility what he or she shares with people. Because, as they say, media forms the society we will live in tomorrow. So it's very important. It's very important for information to be true, honest, and for it to really serve people and not a group of politics. So before we continue, I would like our technical support to show us all the 8 foundations of creative society. If possible, maybe we can watch a short video and then we will continue. Thank you so much. So these 8 foundations is the basic for all people to build a beautiful world where we all live happily, where we feel safe, secure, and comfortable. And every spheres of life, including mass media, will help people to develop their best human qualities and their talents. And of course, we can build such a world only together, only by our joint efforts, only by uniting the whole world under one idea. And thank you so much, our dear guests, for being with us today. At the end, we would like to ask you to wish something for our viewers briefly. So what would be your message for all people in the world. Saroj.
Thank you very much, Elena. Related to the mass journalism, mass media and the journalism, I would like to say to the viewers, to the listeners, that please be careful about the facts and do a fact check. Don't just blindly believe on the whatever is coming to your smartphones or to the television or whatever on newspapers. Please be careful about that, because it may ruin the relationship. It may create a lot of trouble in the society. So please be careful about the news which is coming through. And another important thing I would like to say that in the global platform, this news mass journalism is very soon going to move from the Western world or the European world to the Asian world. Because of what I'm observing here is that if we look at the news agencies, the news, various news groups are there. There are many groups, organizations are there in the Asian region as compared to the Western world. And there is a very much shift in the news houses, media houses is going to happen in the near future. So, okay, during Corona time, I would say stay safe and be blessed. Thank you so much.
Same for you. Thank you so much. Alfred.
Yeah, maybe
What do you wish?
All I have to say is we should be able to double cross whatever that comes to us. We should cross check before we put an information out there, because because it's a social media and it's a media platform, when it goes out there, correcting it becomes possible but impossible, because yes, you still have two videos talking about two different things. Maybe I say A today, tomorrow I'm saying B. You can't really choose the one to believe. So I think the key thing to do is to double check every information before taking it to the mass media for people to consume.
Thank you so much, Alfred, for today's conversation. Our round table was very brief, but very important, because we actually came up with several solutions. And as you was just mentioning, having the active position and also double checking the news by ourselves. Also, what Justice was introducing the peer review, so we can create, and Claudia, our journalist from Cameroon, already started to draft the guidelines for the journalists in the creative society. So if Alfred and Saroj and maybe Yashika, your colleague, would like to join this initiative, it's great. So we can start the change, among that number of journalists who already noticed that there is a problem and already would like to offer the solution. And also the second issue that we discussed today, that ethics in journalism, and it means in order to come to the profession, we must take some responsibility. Otherwise, we will be like consuming fake news, and behind the fake news are the real destinies of people, and fake news are destroying the country. This is what our guest told us today. And the last observation is also going to how to find this and how to elaborate this criteria to be able to be proud of the mass media, in terms of we as ordinary people who are reading the news, we must have our internal criteria inside of us that will allow us to which information to give attention or not to give attention to. What I mean is here that obviously we are not animals. We are human beings. We have two parts in us, like the animal part and the spiritual side in us, the best human part. And we can also choose which news to give our attention to. And it's very important because the information creates our reality. And our technical support team will show to us a small trailer which explains why it is important, because everything starts with the information that we share every day, including the social media.
Every day, we share a great amount of information. This information forms our reality. Is this the way we wish to live? We need change. The change starts with us, with the information we share. Consumerist society leads us to death. We need a new vector of life, a creative society. It is up to you and me to build a creative society worldwide, where human life is the main value. Development of humanity is the main aim. Human safety is the main priority. Is it possible to build a creative society now? Yes. All we need to do is unite in one common idea, a creative society. People around the world are already acting to share the idea of creative society with the whole world to make it a reality. Learn how on the unique international online conference, Creative Society.